First thing that we're going to talk about is Mammals. Now, this is James Corden back on TV, back on scripted TV after his stint in America hosting the Late Late Show or the Late 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 Show. I can never remember what happens with all these late night
How
talk shows
many
in
lates
America.
there are?
I don't know. I don't know what the difference is between all of them. Honestly, I don't know. I just don't understand it. But James Corden went out there, became stupidly successful. He had his carpool karaoke and all that kind of stuff. And this is him back doing something dramatic, doing something that's scripted. It's called Mammals. It's on Amazon Prime. It's scripted by a guy called Jez Butterworth, who no, okay, and this is I keep mixing up Jez Butterworth with Jed Mercurio because Jed Mercurio writes Line of Duty. Jez Butterworth is the playwright who wrote things like Jerusalem and works a lot with Mark Rylance. So this is the playwright, Jez Butterworth, and he is known for writing really really highly acclaimed things and all that. And this is him working with James Corden. James Corden is actually quite a good actor because if you get away from his public persona, which is him being a talk show host and everything like that, and it seems to be the done thing to just yell at James Corden and say how rubbish he is. But James Corden is actually a good. I saw him on stage in One Man Two Governors, really good guy. And in this, he plays a chef. I cannot remember the names of anybody in this thing. He plays a chef, and you meet him with he and his wife are driving down to the coast somewhere in the UK for a holiday. She's pregnant. She's French, and they're driving down there for like a holiday. Everything is supposed to be a baby moon before the baby arrives, and he's getting there. We got to get in there because we've got to see the sunset. We've got to see the sunset. Yeah, and he gets there, jumps into the hot tub to see the sunset with his wife, and then she calls him in and says something's wrong. The next thing is that they go to the hospital. They have bad news. But while he's at the hospital and he has bad news, he has her phone and he receives a text on her phone that makes him start questioning everything about his relationship and everything about his marriage and what actually has been going on. So it follows on with, and I'm not sure whether it's a spoiler to tell you exactly what it is he finds on the text, but let's say that this show starts in exploring things about infidelity. And it starts exploring things about infidelity and about what that means and about how he and his wife got together in the first place because he looks like James Corden and I cannot remember the lady's name, but she's a French actress who looks a bit like a model, quite frankly. And so it's like, how did this thing work? How do these two guys go together? And you also get to meet his sister, played by Sally Hawkins, and her husband, played by Colin Morgan. And you have Sally Hawkins, who has, oh yeah, I just remembered. There's this really, really weird thing that Sally Hawkins does where she escapes into like a literary world, a literary fantasy world. And okay, I'm just gonna say that the Sally Hawkins bit makes no sense to me. I don't understand why Sally Hawkins is in this show because I think it's supposed to be artistic, but I don't know where it gets. The way the show goes on is supposed to be like, an artistic thing of, ooh, let's have a look at fidelity and what that means and whether it means anything to actually only sleep with one person or to be beholden to one person for the rest of your life. A lot of it, some of it I thought was dramatic tosh, quite frankly. I thought, when somebody writes something and they write it because they're expecting you to feel like this is artistic or they're expecting you to feel like this is profound. And I'm like, no, it isn't. This doesn't make any sense. This is not. And where this show ends, the final scene of this show is just such a head scratcher. And it's the kind of thing where I've gone online to see where people sort of like try and explain what the final scene of this show means and everything like that. And this may be terrible. This may be just me sort of like projecting my own things. But when it is I always think of university students. And you have imagine if there's a university student who deliberately walks around with a scarf and a beret. And they're walking around saying, oh, no, you see what they're trying to say here is that the human condition is... And I feel like those are the kind of people who are trying to explain this show and are trying to say, this show actually means something, and this show is actually saying something profound. And I don't have anything against... Well, I mean, it's okay if you're that kind of person, but I don't like it. I don't like it. I find it pretentious. And there was a law of this show that I just kind of thought, why? It's been a couple of months it's been out now. It had quite a bit of hype when it released because it's Jess Butterworth, because it's James Corden. I didn't really think it deserved that. I thought that the story was quite slight. I thought that it has maybe about 3 scenes that move the story along. The rest of it, I think, is just treading water. I think it's about six episodes. I would give it a 3 out of 5. And if you wanted to watch it, go ahead. There's a lot more spoilerific stuff I can talk about, and I think it's the kind of thing that you could sit down and you could say, "Do you think that?" Like, let's say you guys watched it, right? And we would sit down, and my questions would be like, "Do you think that that worked? What do you think about that? Do you think this?" And I just don't think it held itself well together. Don't think it was worth the hype, and I would give it a 3 out of 5. So I still think James Corden's a good actor, but this was a weird show.